Cast, 70 shows, and a 3.5-star rating on Roku TV. Check out nessp.info for direct links and deals on the site Bet Us for 125% off your first 3 deposits in NFL and college odds for upcoming games, Major League Baseball and NBA futures, and boxing wagers. Also, check out Fanatics, sportswear for your favorite teams, and also network merchandise, retro, Northeast Streaming Sports, National Streaming Sports, Big Football, and the Mac and Jack Sports Show t-shirts. Coffee mugs are coming soon. Check it out.
You're watching Mac and Jack on National Streaming Sports.
Jack, midweek, and boy, we got so much stuff happening in the world of sports today. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch, as we talk about, well, let's say we're on the National Streaming Sports Roku channel and YouTube and other places, too, that are carrying us right now. And Jack, I mean, when we take a day off, it seems every time we take a day off or have a day off, all kinds of things happen. And we're not the first to jump on it, but I'll tell you right now, we will be the best coverage of some of these things that happen over last night, yesterday, and last night. And in a surprise, it surprised everyone. It surprised people in the front office. It surprised the players. It surprised everybody watching the Jets this year. They fire Robert Saleh 5 games in with a chance to get in the first place with a win over Buffalo. Now, the whole internet is buzzing. Former players are coming out giving their opinions. First of all, Jack, they let Saleh continue this year. They could have fired him last year. They really could have. But they let him continue because Aaron Rodgers was hurt. So they were going to give him a full year with Aaron Rodgers, and that's what it looked like, to see if they could turn things around. And they fire him, first time, I think, in Jets history, after 5 games. And first, I don't want to say fair because life's not fair, right? But does this make sense to you? Would the Jets still have a chance to get first place, to fire their head coach when the defense is playing well?
It makes sense, Mac, as much as I hate to say it. Would I have done it? No. Okay, they're playing Buffalo this Monday night. A Jets victory means they would have been in first place in the division. And the reason Robert Saleh was invited back this year, wasn't let go during the off season, is because the owner, Woody Johnson, did want to give him a chance with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback. He would try to be open-minded. Keep in mind where last Sunday's game was played, Mac. It was played in London. Woody Johnson, the Jet owner, was an ambassador in London during the Trump administration. London is his place. He has a lot of contacts there. His Jets were playing in his adopted home country of London, and they lose there. And they lose to Sam Darnold, the old Jet quarterback. You know how embarrassing that had to be for Woody Johnson. I kind of wonder if the game was, at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, whether Robert Saleh would still be the coach had they lost to the Vikings there. But losing in London was kind of unthinkable. But in fairness to Woody Johnson, look, he's been the Jet owner for 25 years. He's never fired a coach in season. And that included Adam Gase, who was absolutely awful there. He allows them to finish out the season. So apparently Woody Johnson feels we could still salvage this season, and we weren't going to do it with Robert Saleh as the head coach. But the question is this: was Robert Saleh really given the opportunity to make this his team? Because keep in mind, he was forced to he had Nathaniel Hackett forced on him, basically. And he was forced, Robert Salah, to let go of LaFleur, his offensive coordinator, who he didn't want to let go of. So he wasn't allowed to have his own offensive coordinator to make that decision. He wasn't allowed fully to have his own coaching staff. And it was one of these power struggles within the organization. We don't know the real relationship between Robert Salah and Aaron Rodgers. Of course, Aaron Rodgers is a focus this week. But I'm going to tell you something that's very interesting. Have we heard Aaron Rodgers comment on anything yet? Have we heard any players comment on anything yet that they hate the idea this move being made? The only thing we've heard from Woody Johnson in regard to Aaron Rodgers, well, I never talked to Aaron Rodgers about it, but there's a way of body language. We could have people on this network, and you could be talking to me about them, and I could have a complete lack of enthusiasm about them, like, just hardly pay attention to you when you're talking about them while you're trying to praise them and get something out of me. And that's kind of a communication, like you're not too crazy about the job they're doing. And let's be honest about it, Mac. It's kind of wearing on you what's going on with the Jets. We're 5 games into the season. You yourself said the other day, it seems not much has changed from the Zach Wilson era in these 5 games. And Woody Johnson felt something had to be done. I'm not happy about it being done. I wanted Robert Salah to be given this season. And then if it didn't work out, then you move on. But Woody Johnson still feels the season could get salvaged, and it can.
Well, Rodgers is supposed to go on and say something today on the McAfee show. So I imagine there's going to be big ratings for him today on the McAfee show. I talked to Doc. I interviewed Dr. Paul Semendinger yesterday, and I asked him about this because he's a Jet fan, and he almost said similar to what you said. He said, Salah seemed more like of a fan of Aaron Rodgers than a head coach. He got all excited when Rodgers would make a play, and then he would, and what happened on the sideline where he was going to hug Rodgers, and he seemed a big fan of Aaron Rodgers more than a head coach. But then I countered Jack. I said, listen, he didn't go over to California few times to try to bring Aaron Rodgers over here. As you said, it was almost forced on him, this whole situation. And I mean, what's he going to do? Is he going to say, Aaron Rodgers, if you don't play better, you're going to sit on the bench? He didn't have the authority or power to do that in the way things are set up here. Aaron Rodgers really runs the show right now in New York.
Aaron Rodgers has the power, no question about it. Look at the other 2 head coaches Aaron Rodgers played with, Mike McCarthy. They won a Super Bowl, and they went to the playoffs year after year. So the success was there. But Aaron Rodgers wasn't crazy about Mike McCarthy. That was known. It was they coexisted. That's right. The best way of putting it. And then Aaron Rodgers, you look at LaFleur, who replaced McCarthy at Green Bay. They got along, but Aaron Rodgers was a handful. He wasn't the easiest guy for the coaching staff to get along with. But you want to know something, Matt? When you're as great a player as Aaron Rodgers and arguably one of the top 10 quarterbacks of all time, you have that power. A coach can't put you in your place or shouldn't put you in your place. The coach should communicate with you, try to work something out. And in the case of Aaron Rodgers, him coming to the Jets, Robert Salah can't say, I'm the coach, you listen to me, or you're going to get benched for so-and-so. I remember when Tom Brady first went to Tampa Bay. Bruce Arians was getting on his case. And I remember thinking that Bruce Arians is a complete idiot because Tom Brady's the ultimate pro. He's going to do everything to get it right. There's no need to get on his case. You know what you're getting with Aaron Rodgers. He's a difficult guy. Listen, Aaron Rodgers broke off with his own family. He has issues with that. So Aaron Rodgers, you know, he has issues with people at times, and I don't mean it in a negative way per se. I mean it. He has his way of doing things. That's what I mean.
Well, Jack.
Okay?
Well, Jack, you brought up Tom Brady. Tom Brady goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and he's practicing with the receivers before he's even allowed to. He wants to win. When Peyton Manning goes to the Denver Broncos, he's all over the receivers. He's there. He's working with them. Aaron Rodgers doesn't do this. Aaron Rodgers goes to Egypt. He misses mandatory training.
It was a few days. Don't judge a few days.
I do, because I'm going to tell you why I do, Jack. I do because of the problems he's having with his receivers. He's having a big problem with his receivers with the timing right now. He's overthrown them. He's underthrown them. He's throwing interceptions. And that time at OTAs is the time you work out these timing issues. And I think this is why the Jets are so far behind. Now Rodgers is hurt, and he can't really plant on that back foot because of his knee. He's not as mobile as he was. There's a lot of problems, and this gets to my next point. How much pressure now is on Aaron Rodgers going up against Buffalo? If he wins, everything's, okay, we're good. If Buffalo's defense, which is not a bad defense, corrals Aaron Rodgers and them wide receivers and they lose, then say they lose by 10 points or more, wow. I mean, the Jet fans are going to go nuts.
Well, Aaron Rodgers is under a lot of pressure. He's under the microscope, not just because of how he's going to play going forward, but he's going to be perceived, rightly or wrongly, as the guy who got his head coach fired. Yeah. He's going to be considered kind of like a coach killer in a way. Yeah. And great athletes sometimes get that reputation. LeBron James got that reputation to an extent, You play for LeBron James, you're in jeopardy of getting fired because of the power that LeBron commands. Aaron Rodgers commands that same type of power with the Jets. And Woody Johnson seems to be enthralled with Aaron Rodgers. That's his guy. Just the idea that Woody Johnson isn't calling out Aaron Rodgers. If he fired Robert Saleh, said, Aaron Rodgers got to play a lot better. I'm really disappointed in how he's playing. If he pulled a George Steinbrenner, Yankee fans hated George Steinbrenner. They thought he was a bully. But maybe that's what we need. Maybe you need an owner that's going to call players out saying, look, I'm really disappointed the way he's performing, this or that. But it seems like Woody Johnson in there, is linked really close with Aaron Rodgers. And we'll see going forward what the deal is. But, I think the Jets would have been fine with Robert Saleh going forward. I really do. And I think they're going to be fine going forward the rest of the year. I think they're going to beat Buffalo this weekend. And I think ultimately they're going to win the division. So all this talk about letting go Robert Saleh, when all is said and done, might be looked at as a positive what Woody Johnson did to, steer the ship straight. But I think it would have been done with Robert Saleh as well.
I do too, because he's not running the offense. Hackett and Rodgers are, and the defense played well enough.
They're going to have to move on from Hackett. It wears on you completely, having Hackett. And that's the Devontae Adams situation. If the Jets sign Devontae Adams, all of a sudden we're not talking about Robert Saleh being let go. The big talk in the town is going to be a Hall of Fame receiver. Devontae Adams rejoins Aaron Rodgers. And don't underestimate how big that is, Mac. Alan Lazard, the case of Alan Lazard should prove it. When Rodgers was out last year, Alan Lazard was arguably the worst receiver in the NFL. Any team would have cut him. He was that bad. He was terrible.
I'm going to be honest.
This season, he's having a good year because he has the history with Aaron Rodgers at Green Bay, and he knows exactly the routes that Aaron Rodgers wants run.
I'm going to be honest with you, Jack. Even if the Jets, now if Buffalo wasn't banged up, Buffalo would win that division. I think easily. I think Aaron Rodgers, even if you guys win that division, you're going to get knocked out first round of playoffs. I just don't think. I don't think your offense is that good. I don't think your I don't think your offensive line is that good on the run or on the pass. And I'll tell you, I'll be honest with you, if that's all you guys do is make the playoffs and get knocked out, the whole experiment with Aaron Rodgers is a failure.
Yes and no, because it's been 13 years since the Jets have been in the playoffs. It's been a long, long time. So they get to the playoffs. You can't look at the years being a failure. You really can't.
I would, after the high expectations.
That was a year ago, but the expectations this season weren't as great as they were a year ago. 1 year ago, when Aaron Rodgers joined the Jets, the feeling was just making the playoffs wouldn't be enough. They have to win the Super Bowl, at least get there at the very least. Okay, at the very least, at least make it to a Super Bowl. This year, at the very least, the Jets have to make the playoffs, not the Super Bowl. The expectations have been tempered a bit.
I don't know if that is worth the money and the trade you made with Green Bay just to make the playoffs. I don't know if that's worth it, Jack. And Aaron Rodgers can retire after this year.
He could, but so what did they lose? A third-round draft choice? I mean,
and a lot of money. And a lot of money. And a lot of money.
Yeah,
Jack.
Listen, it's not your money, Mac. Come on.
That's true. That's true.
You're complaining about it.
100% true. 100% true. So let's push on to the next quarterback here. And, Keith Angle, who is a major part of the network, he comes on our show on Friday and Sunday, and he was steadfast and that there's no way Drake May would play this year at all. Then he kind of wavered a little bit. He said, well, maybe by the end of the season when it's all done and we're out of it, they'll let Drake May play. And me and you told him, Jack, listen, man, there are players that want to win. There are players in the locker room that aren't happy, especially the wide receivers. And the fan pressure coming out, as you know, I watch social media for all the posts and news and rumors. The fans are going crazy. Pull out Brissett. Put in Drake May. What do you got to lose? And next game, Jack, Drake May suiting up and getting on the field.
Yeah, I don't get it. Keith Angle, others felt, well, the Patriots, they don't want to throw Drake May out there, let him carry the clipboard. But meanwhile, the other rookie quarterbacks, Caleb Williams is the full-time starter at Chicago. Jaden Daniels is the full-time starter at Washington. Bo Nix is the full-time starter at Denver. So what the heck is Drake May spending the season on the bench? Okay, I mean, I could understand Michael Penix because they have Kirk Cousins. So Michael Penix has to be on the bench.
Right.
But, I mean, Jacoby Brissett there, and the season with New England after shocking Cincinnati in the opening game has been all downhill. They played pretty poorly. They've generated virtually no offense. It's about time to put Drake May in there. The argument is, well, there's no offensive line. You don't want to get him all beat up. He's going to lose his confidence. Who says they're going to have an offensive line next year?
It's true.
I mean, like everyone feels, he doesn't have the offensive line. Don't play him. You think the offseason you're necessarily going to have an offensive line? Of course, you're going to look to maybe draft, make some trades, free agent acquisitions, but it doesn't mean those are going to work out.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to let Drake May at some point get in there and play. And I guess the time has come because New England has become so irrelevant, Mac, so irrelevant. And you could tell, you know how you could tell, Mac, if I tell you there's a prime time game, and if I told you, the New England Patriots are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, you would yawn.
Yes.
Mostly because of New England, up there. So they've got to get that franchise relevant again. And Drake May's basically their great hope.
Yeah, and listen, they said Drake May is the best quarterback in practice. I mean, he's a better athlete than Brissett at this time in Brissett's career. And I think what pushed over the edge, Jack, was getting embarrassed by Miami. If they won in Miami, Brissett might still be the starting quarterback. But after losing to a team that has a quarterback that doesn't really throw but run the ball and not being able to score against a Miami defense that isn't the best in the league, I think that pushed it over the edge. I think finally the GM and the owner said, hey, listen, we're being embarrassed by the Miami Dolphins. They didn't want to play Carolina because Carolina probably would have beat them too. And I think that's what pushed actually push Drake May to start this week. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I listen. Not a lot of teams have great offensive lines, so you know.
Well, they're playing the Texans at home, New England, this week. And D'Amico Ryan, the Texan head coach, he's a defensive specialist. That's his forte. So he's going to have Drake May under a lot of pressure, giving him a lot of different looks. But, you know, you could score on the Texans, and teams have done it. And, I mean, the rest of the season for New England isn't about winning and losing because they're not making the playoffs, and their fans know it. It's Drake May's development. If Drake May's coming along really nicely, I think that could salvage the season for New England, you know, knowing they have their quarterback, you know, the future.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, I'm normally one of those guys that say sit the quarterback, but in this situation, when you have Brissett, and you can't beat Miami Dolphins, I mean, listen, go ahead, put him in because it's not going to get any better. It's really.
Well, we all knew what Jacoby Brissett was there. He was strictly a bridge quarterback. Yeah. He's knocked around a few different teams, and he's been given the opportunity to start for other teams. He started some games for Cleveland. You know, he had a little success there. Yeah. You know, he had a chance to be the starting quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. You know, the Raiders, the Patriots. He's not. He was with the Patriots previous to this time around with New England. And what did people expect? They were hoping he'd play well, but, you know, everyone knew it was a matter of time before Drake May would get in. But the thought was if you could keep Drake May off the field this year for the most part and then start him next year, that would have been an ideal situation, you know, for New England, the way they were looking at it. But you said it best, Mac. How Drake May looked in practice. We're not at practice. They see him each day. If one guy's looking better than the other in practice each day, and the players see that, how do you play the quarterback that's not looking as good? Yeah. How do you justify that? And the players start grumbling, and Gerard Mayo was under the risk of losing the team by letting this continue, you know, keeping Drake May on the bench.
Yeah. Well, let's take a look real quick and let's talk about Derek Carr first. Derek Carr got his ribs or abdomen and whatever. It's about a lot better than people thought. Even though he went back in the game, he's going to be out for a few weeks. And you know, we talked about it with James. James is a big New Orleans Saints fan. The Kansas City defense. I think I was on the mark with Kareem Hunt having a big game, and he did. They couldn't stop the run, and that let Patrick Mahomes, you know, do his play action pass and you know, find Kelsey. Kelsey had an unbelievable game for the Chiefs against the New Orleans Saints. But now the New Orleans Saints, who were one of the teams that were supposed to be in that top level, you know, fighting for the playoffs. This is a huge setback for them, Jack.
Yeah, I mean, maybe, and probably the Saints aren't that good. They have a few really good players, but they're not that good, and Derek Carr's not that good. He has great games, Derek Carr, from time to time. I say it about him often. He'll throw 4 touchdown passes and look like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, but then he'll go to sleep on you. There's no real consistency with Derek Carr. You know, he might be out a few weeks for all we know. And Spencer Rattler is going to be getting an opportunity. And they drafted him, like in the 5th round or so? New Orleans, that's a bargain. He had off-the-field issues, so his stock dropped. But there's a lot of potential there with Spencer Rattler. And if Spencer Rattler shines, he won't be the starter when Carr comes back, because Carr's firmly entrenched to be the starter this year no matter what. They're going to look maybe towards Spencer Rattler as their quarterback of the future.
Yeah. And it seemed like the Saints really couldn't get their offense on track all year. I mean, you know, I don't know. I just know that when you got Tampa Bay and Atlanta, and these two teams are playing really well, and then you got New Orleans, who was supposed to challenge and be in that 3 mix. All of a sudden, you know, maybe they fall out, and that'll be a shame. But anyway, so goes the NFL. You better have a good backup. And we saw it last year, and it may be, you know, he may not be the first to fall. So we got the game tomorrow night, San Francisco versus Seattle. This is brought to you by Bet Us. Go to the top right of your screen, folks, and just screen that QR code with your mobile phone, and you go right to the site of Bet Us, be able to put a wager on this game if you choose. San Francisco's -3 right now, Jack. They lost to Arizona on the last play of the game. Arizona vying to be relevant in that West, and Seattle loses to the New York Giants. I think the LA Rams are out of it because of their injuries right now. I think they're done. All three of these teams are going to be trying to get in the first place or maybe a wild card, Jack. But you know something? Just like the NFC East, the winner of this division may be the only one that gets into the playoffs because there are so many good teams in that second tier. And, Dallas has stepped up. Of course, we got the North with all 4 teams playing 500 or better. I mean, this is a big game here tomorrow for both teams. What do you think? Who has the best chance of winning this, Jack?
You got to still go with the 49ers. I know they lost to Arizona. Maybe Arizona contends. Maybe they could stay with the 49ers in Seattle. I think the Seattle loss at home to the Giants put it in perspective. They're really not that good of a team, Seattle. I don't know why so many people were high on the Seahawks. I guess because they point to individual players on that team. They have some very good individual players. I would trust the 49ers. I know that they're 2-3. I know this is a slow, sluggish start, but they have a certain pedigree that Seattle and certainly Arizona doesn't have. Arizona's kind of like the new kid on the block in that division. Kyler Murray will play with reckless abandon. Marvin Harrison, we're waiting for him to break out into his own. And I think when all's said and done, San Francisco, the 49ers, they win tomorrow night. They kind of restore order in that division and they wind up winning it. But you're right. I don't know will a wild card come out of that division. But if you look at the other divisions, where's the wild card going to come out of? It's not going to come out of it might not come out of the East with the Cowboys, Eagles, Giants, Washington. Maybe it does. I like the Central because the Vikings off to 5-0 start. Even if they falter a little, they've got a cushion. 5 games over 500, 5 games into the year. But you have Green Bay, Detroit, and Chicago. Before we know, Mac, all those teams are going to be a wild card in that division, the Central. You never know. I don't think that's ever been done before. Every team in a division is a wild card.
I'm not sure, Jack. I can't say off the top of my head. I know back in the day with the East when you had the Giants, the Eagles, the Redskins, maybe the Cowboys in the 80s. I don't know.
Well, it couldn't have been because you had only 2. It couldn't have been because they had only 2 wild cards before someone had to get left out. But now that you have the additional wild card, every team can conceivably get in that division. And you think someone has to fall off the pace, at some point. But I think you're going to see in the NFC a couple of teams with a 9-8 record getting in as a wild card, a couple of them. And you might get 2 teams with a 9-8 record, 1 team with an 8-9 record, a losing record getting a wild card.
It's possible. It really is. So, we'll see what happens with the game tomorrow night. I don't know. It's so hard to handicap and to pick games this year because anybody can beat anybody at any time, and it's crazy. So we'll see what happens. But I think, as I said before, as we get to game 8 and we get halfway through the season, game 9, I think the cream will start rising to the top.
You said it best, Max. Just your statement now. You just have to look back at early in the season, the lack of logic. The Raiders going to Baltimore, a game Baltimore needs to win, and Baltimore's one of the best teams in the NFL, and the Raiders beat Baltimore there, and then they turn around and at home they lose to the pathetic Carolina Panthers next week. Where's the logic?
There is none. Not yet. Order, as you said with the 49ers, order will be restored eventually.
I think they restore order, and they'll be in the playoffs at the end of the season.
I agree. So let's look at the two games from last night, Jack. We were talking before the show on Glove Fist, and I said to you, well, I think the Mets. You thought the Mets should win both games, and there you go. I thought getting the split in Philly was a good thing because listen, it's a hostile environment. You go in there, you take one out of the two games, you come back to New York, and you got two games in New York. And if they won last night, which they ended up doing, now you can wrap it up in New York. You don't even have to go back to Philly. The way the playoffs are set up, you're not even going back if you take care of business tonight. But last night, listen, Jose Iglesias, he's not only a good singer, but he drove in 2 RBIs for the Mets yesterday, along with let me see who else grabbed 2 RBIs.
Alonso hit a homer. Yeah.
Thank you. Alonso hit a home run. Lindor drives in a run. I mean, the Mets offense played really well. The pitching was really good as pitcher Son Manaea goes 7 innings and gives up 3 hits and 1 run. It's not that the Phillies didn't have their chances. They did have people on base, could have scored, but the Mets come out on top, Jack. There is something about the Mets this year. I don't know if they go to the World Series, but this team does not stop.
Oh, no. They're playing very, very well. What I stated to you, when you go into a series, you don't look, if you're the Mets, and say, oh, we're going to Philadelphia, let's go 1-1. These short series, you take a game at a time. If you win the first game and you lose the second game, you're not in a good mood traveling back home. You're thinking of these series turn quick. For the Philadelphia Phillies, I can understand they're coming to New York. You got Zach Wheeler on the mound for Game 5, but they're not thinking of getting a split. They're thinking of winning 1 game at a time. The Yankees are playing at Kansas City next 2 games. Okay, now it's the best 2 out of 3. Right. They're not thinking in terms, well, let's just get a split and we'll be happy. We'll settle for that going back to Yankee Stadium for Game 5. I mean, they're thinking of winning Game 3. And if the Yankees win tonight but lose tomorrow, do you think they're going to be traveling back to New York and thinking, oh, okay, we're happy, we got a split, we're playing in Yankee Stadium? Of course, they'll try to put a positive spin on it. But these playoff series are so short, you have to take it a game at a time, especially best 3 out of 5. If you're up 2-0, you have some breathing room. Okay, if we lose 1 game, we're still in command. But like I was saying to you, I think it was before the show, it's a crucial time. For the Yankees at Kansas City, or any of these teams, it can be over by tomorrow night. The season can be over. You're 1 game apiece, best 3 out of 5. In the blink of an eye, the Yankees season could be over. They better be darn concerned. There better be urgency. I don't want to hear that they're not worried. It's good to have a little, worry, some fear. Maybe not worry, but if you ask the Yankees, do you have any fear? And they'll say, yeah, we do have some fear, but make that fear work for you.
Well, we did talk before the show, and I brought up, as we get back to the Mets and the Phillies, Zach Wheeler is not pitching until Game 5. They lose the Mets 2 games. If they lose, they're done. So why wouldn't you bring your ace? I don't care if it's short rest or not. I've seen pitchers do it before. Why would you not pitch Zach Wheeler at least in Game 4 if the Phillies lose?
Matt, you're going to have to pitch the same guys today than tomorrow, okay? And you want your ace ready to go for Game 5. Pitchers have a routine, as you know. You don't want to compromise that routine. I understand what you're saying. The season's on the line. You throw conventional wisdom out the window and you go with anyone. I can understand that. But if you have your ace all rested for that final game, you have a big advantage. You know, this is similar to the Mets in 1986. A-Rod mentioned that yesterday in the post-game show, that if you're the Mets, you better win this fourth game, because if you're going back to Philadelphia and Zach Wheeler, the ace, is already, it's kind of like the Mets in 1986 when A-Rod was a kid and a Mets fan, having to win game 6. Otherwise, they would face Mike Scott in game 7. And that would be a daunting task. So that's what's facing the Mets in that sense. Win today, because at game 5, all of a sudden, all this talk about momentum is gone. If the Mets are playing game 5 in Philadelphia, they're going to be up against it with the Philly fans, Zach Wheeler facing elimination. Everything changes. This is a virtual must-win game for the Mets, even though they're up 2-1.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens. Now, the Dodgers, Jack, the favorites, just like the Phillies are, go down 2-1 against the Padres. Fernando Tatis, David Perella, both with two RBIs. Michael King didn't have his best game, but he hung in there. He battled as he gave up the 5 runs and ended up getting the win. Tatis is a monster right now. This is what he got paid all that money for. And, this could be over too, Jack.
Well, the Padres did it the right way with Tatis. They signed for like a 13-year deal. He was age 24 to age 37 because they projected the type of player he was going to be, and they wanted him to be a career Padre. More teams should do that. If you have a great young player, don't fool around. Sign him to a big deal that the club is going to feel comfortable paying that type of money. You could avoid paying crazy money, and you don't risk losing them to free agency. There was one play yesterday that was like deja vu. Early in the game, Mookie Betts hits the ball to left field. Peralta goes up again, and it goes off his glove. You couldn't tell in the beginning. And Mookie Betts slows up. There's confusion. Did he catch it or not? It was deja vu to the game before. Yeah. And Peralta didn't catch it. If Peralta caught that and started playing around, like making believe he didn't, and then showed the ball, and I'm the umpire, I'd kick him out of the game. I know you're in San Diego from siding a right. You don't hold the game up with this. You're gone. Yeah. Case closed. You're out of here.
I bet he was talked to. I bet he was talked to, Jack. After that, I bet all the Padres were talked to by the manager, and maybe even higher up might have sent him a message. I mean, that they're not going to put up with. I know that's not.
Well, but it was good. They played the game. There was no fan issues in San Diego. So if there's a game 5 in LA, hopefully that's the case. But I don't think there would be unless the Dodgers lost to us. It were getting blown out in a game 5 if it did get to a game 5, because there'd be so much at stake in that deciding game 5. The Dodger fans would be more tuned into their team winning the game than they would in taunting, one of the players.
So let's look at today's matchup. You have Clark Schmidt, 5-5, who hasn't pitched forever, going up against Seth Lugo, who's 69, a pretty good pitcher, Jack. I mean, what do you see there? I mean, the Yankees have got to come out. They've got to make contact. Don't swing for the fences. Put the bat on the ball. Get some base hits. Get some walks. Make them work, Lugo. And Clark Schmidt, I hope, is ready for this game, Jack.
Well, it's either him or Lewis Gill. And I would have leaned towards Clark Schmidt myself.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, I would. I just have faith in Clark Schmidt's steadiness. I could see Clark Schmidt pitching 6 innings and giving up 2 runs, being that type of pitch in this game. Seth Lugo, I mean, the Royals have the pitching edge. No ifs or buts about it. He was for a while a Cy Young candidate. It's hard to believe he was once a middle reliever for the Mets, and a very good one, I might add. And then he went to the Padres. Now he found his niche as one of the better starters in the game. And the Yankee bats are going to have to be, working. They're going to have to generate offense against Seth Lugo, which isn't going to be easy. And Clark Schmidt is going to have to keep the game close to then maybe get to the Royal bullpen, which is actually good even though they've had control issues, in the series so far.
In this game, Jack, I mean, I watched Cabrera's last time up. He hits a home run. He's faster, a lot faster than our DH right now.
Giancarlo Stanton.
Do you take Stanton out and maybe put Cabrera, the younger, faster guy, in? No. Okay.
No, maybe Dominguez. Jason Dominguez I put in because he has all this upside, not Cabrera. I mean, there's absolutely no way. I mean, Cabrera's just another guy with the bat in his hands. There's nothing special about him to want to sit. Stanton, listen, as bad as Stanton was on the bases, guess what? He knocked in a run in the last game, okay? He knocked in a run. And if Stanton goes on a tear, I mean, he's really, really dangerous. He could cause the type of damage you figure Cabrera can't. Stanton is an albatross on the bases. The problem is he's not going to beat out an infield hit. If he's the lead run on base, you got problems there. And he was exposed on the bases. I mean, we knew he couldn't run the bases beforehand. Everyone knew that when he was in the lineup hitting. Everyone knew he couldn't run the bases. But it's painful when we have to actually witness it. And
You said Cabrera is Dominguez is better than Cabrera. Last game he played, Jack, home runs, and he stole second. I mean, he's a very good athlete. I'm not saying he's a power hitter like Stanton is. Dominguez is young. He's a rookie. I mean, Cabrera I think is a little bit older than Dominguez, and Dominguez he hasn't played well when he's been in there.
Mac, Cabrera could have been the starting third baseman this year. He could have been the full-time first baseman after Anthony Rizzo went down, yet he wasn't. For one simple reason, he's not that good. He's not that good. That's why he didn't take over for Anthony Rizzo. That's why Chisholm is the third baseman there and not Cabrera. That's why Cabrera can play left field, but Fideo was there. There are reasons. Cabrera was a nice utility player. He runs the bases well. You can move him around different positions. He's a good guy to have on a team, a really good guy to have on a team. But don't start thinking he's an impact player. Start building Cabrera up.
I go with the hot guy, Jack, and right now Cabrera's
that hot. What did he do that's that hot, Cabrera? He got what, one hit?
What he did last game, he hits a home run and steals second when he gets on first. That's a lot more than Stanton. I mean, he's hitting more home runs than Stanton has in the playoffs, more than Aaron Judge has.
Okay, so how about doing this? Aaron Judge isn't hitting Mac. Why not shake things up? I have an idea.
You need him in center field. You need him in
center field. Let's play Cabrera in center field.
You need
and let's spell Judge for one game, because look at Judge's statistics in the playoffs, Mac. He doesn't hit in the playoffs. And Cabrera, you said, came through for one game. So how about we sit Aaron Judge and play Cabrera in center field?
You can't lose that defensive Aaron Judge. You can't. I mean, he makes up for it on defense. You can't. You can't. Stanton doesn't play.
So how about doing this, Mac? I have a better idea. You make a great point once again, Mac. How about we move Judge down in the batting order for the playoffs? Hit him 8th.
Let him bat first.
Let him hit 8th. No, you don't want him up first.
I want him at batting first. That's where I want Judge.
Aaron Judge?
Yes, I want him batting first.
Why are you promoting him to bat first?
Because I think it would shake him up. I think it would take a lot of pressure off him. How's that?
So you're hitting him in front of Soto now.
Yes. I bet Soto.
After all season, hitting Soto in front of Judge, you're going to change the whole chemistry.
Yes.
That's a panic move. I was being sarcastic. Anyone listening, you're more foolish than Mac's comments if you believe I was being serious. Anyone listening out there.
Listen.
You don't move Judge, obviously, to 8th to take him out of the lineup. I was just being
This
sarcastic.
is my lineup, Jack. I'm giving you my lineup. Judge bats first. Soto bats second. We put Cabrera batting third. Then we put our catcher at fourth. And then fifth, I move up. I move up to shortstop. I move him up to fifth.
Okay,
and then
fifth.
Yes, that's what I do.
And then I guess Chisholm goes whatever. Okay, I mean, listen, Mac, whatever.
I shake
But
it.
people, if the Yankees do get eliminated against the Royals, people will be calling for Aaron Boone to get fired. If they get by the Royals and get eliminated in the next round, people are going to be calling for Aaron Boone maybe to be fired. If they get to the World Series, Aaron Boone.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you where my idea comes from. When Mookie Betts was out, who was the leadoff hitter for the Dodgers, Jack?
For the Mets in that time? For the Dodgers. I'm thinking Mookie Wilson, man.
Mookie Betts. When he was out, who was batting first?
Ohtani.
There you go. So Phillies are going to be pitching Ranger Suarez, whoever he is, versus Mets.
He's been around. He's solid all year.
Nobody knows about that. I don't know him. Mets, Jose Quintana. I think the Mets have the edge, Jack. Pitching wise.
It's a toss-up.
Yeah.
It's a toss-up there, in a game like this. You can't say nothing significant. Quintana, Suarez. I think it's pretty close. Really? I think both. Yeah, I don't think the Phillies are going to hesitate to go to their bullpen fairly early. They have. It's an elimination game. The Mets, and if you're the Mets, are you saving some people in the bullpen? Mendoza was criticized the other day for bringing in Edwin Diaz in the 7th inning. Sometimes you shouldn't save certain guys in the bullpen because, you shouldn't save them for the next game because it might not be relevant the next game. It might not be important for the next game. So when you get to this time in the playoffs, you try to win a game when you can. If you need to pitch Edwin Diaz in extra inning, empty out his arm for this one particular game to win the game if you have any type of lead. In other words, if it's the 7th inning and it's 2 outs and you have a 1-run lead and you're the Mets, I could understand you bring Edwin Diaz in.
I wouldn't.
Because you want to close this game out badly. You can't worry about holding them for the next game because if the Mets fall behind 3-0 in the elimination game, the next game, Edwin Diaz doesn't have the same value anymore.
The problem with that is when Diaz, normally when he comes in the first inning, he gives up home runs. He needs like an inning to get through. I wouldn't put him out there with anybody on base. I may put him out there with nobody on base. I'd be scared to put him out there with a couple runners in scoring position.
It's a little scary, but that's any relief pitcher. Any of these closers, they'll tell you they hate coming in with men on base. They hate it. They like to have a clean inning from the beginning. And it could be problematic, but conventional wisdom goes out the window in the playoffs like this. You've got to just get the job done. You're coming with someone on base. They do with a lot of these closers in the 8th inning. They do bring them in with 2 outs and someone on base also. But the 7th inning would be a little early, I have to admit, only for the reason because your closer's going to have to throw a lot of pitches.
No doubt.
And that means you won't have them the next game. Listen, the Yankees, there's history behind it. In 1978, when the Yankees played the Red Sox in the 1-game playoff, they brought in Goose Gossage with 2 outs in the 7th inning.
Yeah.
Okay, and he pitched the 8th, 9th. He struggled, but he ultimately got the save, and not one of his best performances, but he gutted it out.
Yeah, he did. The Dodgers have Buehler as 1-6 versus the Padres, who's pitching king at 13-9. Jack, definite advantage to the Padres. Before we even get to that, did you see the play? Which game was it? Was it the Dodgers against the Padres? When the reliever tried to get the ball and tried to shuttle it, he missed it. He stops it with his hand. He gets the ball. He tries to do it. He misses the ball with his glove. Then was that the Dodgers and the Padres?
I don't know what the heck you're talking about, Mac. Mac,
The
if you don't know what you're
Who's the
talking
Phillies?
about,
Wait a
how
minute.
am I
Wait a minute.
supposed
The
to
producer,
know? I
the
mean, come
producer,
on, move on.
the
I have no idea what you're
the producer is the one that straightened me out here. Did you see the reliever for the Phillies? The big dude who stops the ball. The ball's hit back to him. He stops it with his hand. And he goes to throw it, and it rolls. He blows it. So then he runs after the ball. He, instead of barehanded and throwing it to the first baseman, he tries to get it with the glove. He misses the ball, and he ends up almost falling down.
That happens. Listen,
that was
happens. I mean,
that was crazy. What is he even doing out there? I mean, that guy can't even. He doesn't even know to use his glove to stop the ball and throw the ball with his bare hand. I mean, I would have pulled him out.
Let me tell you something interesting. Like, since we're on a topic like that, you know what we've never seen in baseball history, never once. And I'm sure it's happened in a regular season game, but you never even see it on the highlights. I wonder, it might not have happened for 30, 40 years, and I can't recall it ever happening. We're going to see a big spot one day in the playoffs, where there's a run on third base, the game is on the line, and the catcher throws the ball back to the pitcher, and the pitcher misses it, it goes off his glove, and the runner comes in and scores. That tells you how great these major leaguers are, that the catcher could throw it to the pitcher, and there's never an issue with the pitcher catching it and the runners staying where they are. We're going to see that happen one time. There's going to be a miscue. The catcher's going to make a bad throw. The pitcher's going to miss the ball. Something's going to happen in that regard, and that's going to become a part of baseball history at some point.
Yeah. I don't recall it in the playoffs either.
I can't recall it ever happening, even in a regular season game.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. I think I do remember something like that, but I wouldn't be able to point it out to you. So let's see. What do you think, Jack? Does the Padres put it away today? I think they do. I think it's over.
I picked the Padres to win the series. If I have to make either they'll win today, win tomorrow. I hate to say for one game. I like to look at the whole series. I feel the Padres do, win the series. I get the feeling, though, it'll go to a game 5 and they'll win in LA. The Dodgers win San Diego, the Padres will win in LA. I mean, but what do I know? I mean, I'm guessing on that, but I think the Padres are going to prevail. It's easy to say because they're up 2-1, so they're favored to win at this point. But I did say before the series, I thought the Padres would win it.
In recent history, since we've had, the extra wild cards, can you remember all the division leaders, pretty much the favorites, Cleveland and Detroit, men's and men's, but they were favored by a little bit. All of them lose in this round. Can you recall that?
I mean, I'm sure it happens. Things go against conventional wisdom in the playoffs. I mean, people are talking about the home team this, the home team that. What, about 7 years ago or something like that, the Washington Nationals beat the Houston Astros in the World Series. All 7 games the visiting team won. There's so much for home advantage. A home advantage is, it's minimal in baseball and football. You want it for your teams. You do want it for your teams. It's a tiny bit of an advantage, Mac, but it's really not as a big advantage actually for what goes on in the field as you would think. It's really not. It seems that way because you hear the fans cheering and they're comfortable. Oh, we're going home, this and that. Listen, I'm sure it helped the Mets yesterday with all the cheering, and I'm sure it'll help the Mets today to an extent, like it'll help the Phillies if they go home, for game 5. But I think the home field advantage is a little overblown.
I don't know. I'm still trying to think. I know the Diamondbacks go to the World Series. They were the wild card. I know the Phillies the year before that were a wild card, and they went to the series. I'm trying to remember if in the playoffs and in the division series, if there were ever all 4, wild card teams in there. I can't remember. I don't know. It's interesting. I'll tell you that, Jack. It's exciting.
You want to hear what talked about? We're talking baseball. Talk about mindsets of organizations. The Colorado Rockies, they lost 101 games. So what did they do with their manager, Bud Black? They just gave him an extension. They say they're headed in the right direction. You lose 101 games. You're headed in the right direction. I mean, like, what the heck are you talking about? It's like you're low on gas and you're passing the station rather than filling up your tank, not knowing where the next station is.
Yes.
I mean, 101 games and they're moving in the right direction. They fired a couple of their coaches. So if you're moving while they gave Bud Black the extension, the Rockies, if you're moving in the right direction, why aren't you retaining your coaches? You clearly are trying to shake things up because you're unhappy. I mean, I don't get this.
I bet Robert Sala wishes the owner of the Diamondbacks was the owner of the Jets right now because he'd probably still have a job. How about that?
Well, Woody Johnson, I mean, like I said, losing in London. He was an ambassador for Donald Trump in London the 4 years before. And if Trump gets reelected, Woody Johnson might become an ambassador there again.
I bet a lot of Jet fans. I bet a lot of Jet fans are wishing Woody Johnson would be an ambassador right now and stay the hell out of their business.
No. Woody Johnson has slipped under the radar. Before firing Salah yesterday, you didn't hear Jet fans complaining about Woody Johnson, really. I mean, he was an owner who we knew who he was, but it wasn't like he put his fingerprints on the team.
We left one thing out, that while he was in London as ambassador, his brother's the one that hired Salah. I imagine there was some kind of communication.
Yeah,
his brother was running the team, so I would think Woody Johnson would have said, "Okay, if you think this is the guy, great defensive coach for the 49ers, maybe he is a good guy." But Woody Johnson was not in place in New York when this happened. So,
and Mac, but keep in mind, Salah had a record of 20-36.
Oh, I understand.
I wanted Salah to be given the season the rest of the year. But it's not like Woody Johnson was overly impulsive in doing this. The question is this: if the Jets don't make the playoffs, they're not sticking with any interim coach next year. I can't see it. Who would be the best coaching candidate? I think someone like Mike Vrabel would be a fine candidate.
No, not with Aaron Rodgers. Not if Aaron Rodgers is still there, he wouldn't be. No, he wouldn't. Let me
tell you, if you're the owner, Aaron Rodgers is going to have to adjust, because if you don't make the playoffs, Aaron Rodgers is losing some power there. And if I'm a new coach coming in, I say to Aaron Rodgers, this is the way we have to do things. I come down hard on Aaron Rodgers in front of the rest of the team. I get on Aaron Rodgers. I put my stamp on it. And you want to know something? We were talking the other day about Tyrod Taylor maybe replacing him, and I thought it was ludicrous. But if I'm putting my stamp on the team and Aaron Rodgers is giving me a hard time, I would yank him out for series, put in Tyrod Taylor. Or if Aaron Rodgers is struggling, I'll try to rally with Tyrod Taylor like a relief pitcher.
You don't think that Aaron Rodgers is going to have some say on who the head coach is?
No. If the Jets win, if they just go to the playoffs, get eliminated, maybe. But if the Jets make a deep playoff run, they're not going to, perhaps. Let's see. Let's see what the Jets do going forward with that.
I think the Jets are in a lot of trouble, Jack. I really do. And I'm not saying that because I don't like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think he was a great quarterback. And I don't think he's a great quarterback anymore. And I think he's a very good quarterback, maybe just a good quarterback. And I don't see that offensive line being better next year. I think they're in trouble. And we'll see.
No, talk to me after Monday night about it. If they lose, they're in trouble.
Yeah.
If they win, I think everything gets straightened out.
Maybe so. Okay, folks, thanks for joining us as we are here. We'll be back here on Friday live. Again, tonight we have the professional sports show from National Streaming Sports, and we'll get into this, of course, again tonight and some other things. Oh yeah, before I go real quick, we do have podcasts in that peninsula of Florida, Louisiana, and Atlanta, the Georgia area. It might affect some of our shows, so bear with us over the next couple of games. We'll get them on if they can come on.
Hey,
If not, we will replace them.